All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome tonight. Looks like we have enough chairs for once. To the April meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to call the meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Mr. Ferguson?
Present.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Ms. Savage?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Kemp?
Here. And at this time, if you'd all join me with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And then we need a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote on that.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Kemp?
Yes. Okay. And do we have any presentations at this time?
I think we have our Good Apple
Okay.
recognition.
Yes.
And if the board members want to go ahead and go to the front step, I think Lynette and Jonathan will go ahead and have everyone organized. I have a few things as you're collecting down there. Good Apple Night is a special night for all of us. I wanted to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you here tonight for your invaluable contributions to our school community. Your dedication, passion, and selflessness have made a profound impact on the lives of our students and our staff. Whether you've been helping out in a classroom, organizing events, chaperoning field trips, or lending a helping hand wherever it's needed, your efforts have not gone unnoticed. It is through your collective efforts that we are able to create nurturing and enriching environments where our students can learn, grow, and succeed. So on behalf of all of us, we appreciate from the bottom of our hearts your unwavering support and dedication.
All right, good evening. So I'm Lynette Fott, I'm from Central Office, and I'm going to start off this evening. Before we have our first Good Apple come up, I did just want to give a little kudos to Scott Forney and the Fab Lab for creating the Good Apple Awards this year. They're pretty awesome, so thank you, Scott. Leanne, if you'd like to come up. I know, you don't have to say a word. You can stand right here. So our Good Apple for Central Office is Leanne Shepard, and Leanne has been involved in participation of a lot of district committees, including Let's Talk and the Transportation Committee, as well as building level PTOs, which is appreciated more than this award can express. She's helped with marching band, serving meals, and etc. And I've heard that she has a huge passion for recycling, especially at Mill Valley. So thank you for that. She also studies education and shares information, which is always appreciated in the district. And she is the parent of 3 daughters, one at Creekview, one at Bunsold, and one at the high school. So thank you, Leanne, for being our Good Apple. We have a certificate for you. Thank you. And your Good Apple Award, you might want to, yeah.
Thank you.
And then you're going to just proceed to the board. And once you've shaken hands, if you want to have a seat, then we will call you all back up afterwards and get a picture with the board and all the Good Apples. Edgewood?
Good evening. I'm Chris Campbell. I'm the principal at Edgewood Elementary School. It is with great pleasure I get to announce Cassandra Bach as my Good Apple winner here at Edgewood Elementary for this school year. Cassandra is a parent who comes in and volunteers. She's sometimes there almost all day long. We see her weekly in there helping and supporting our teachers. She supports us through PTO events, volunteers whenever she's asked. She's been a great help to Edgewood, and everyone knows her, recognizes her, and appreciates her. She has been a huge asset for us this year, so we really appreciate her support and help, and we look forward to her coming back. I will say one thing. When we started at the beginning of the school year, we had a parent who won last year, so we kind of started a little competition to see who was going to be in there the most, and Cassandra definitely was in there the most. I had a running tally in my head. I would check on who was going. I think next year we might put an actual board up and see who's going to win the Good Apple Award. But we thank her, and we appreciate her support and help at Edgewood. There you go. Yeah, that's going to fall. You got it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Jones, and I am Mill Valley's principal. And I am honored tonight to award our Good Apple to Nikki Hostine. So I don't have anything prepared because I'm worried I'm going to cry. I'm not sure where Mill Valley would be without Nikki. I met Nikki 4 years ago when her daughter started kindergarten. It was my first year as principal. I'm gonna cry. I can't look at you. I also had kindergartners starting at the same time, and her daughter, McKenna, did not want to come into the building. And every day I'd go out and bring McKenna in while she was crying, and I'd look at her and go, go, just go. And now you would never know that McKenna was like that. And our daughters have actually become really good friends. But I can't even begin to tell you what there is that Nikki doesn't do. She started off as a really huge part of our PTO, organizing events. She comes in and does fundraising, you name it in terms of PTO, what she does. But then last year, she decided to start subbing for us, both as a classroom aide and also as a certified sub, and I think that she just wins the award in general because she's literally there almost every day. There's never a time that I can't text Nikki and say, hey, want to sub today? And that she doesn't say, I'll be there. Let me eat my breakfast and get changed, and then I'll be there. So Mill Valley is so lucky to have her and her support. Our building would not run on a daily basis without her. So I'm very honored to give you this.
Hi guys, I'm Lynette Lewis, the principal at Naven, and I am very proud to introduce our Good Apple Award winner for this school year, and Mina Miller. Oh, there you are. I was looking for you over there. I thought I saw you over there. Come on in. Come on up. I'm giving this to Mina, but this is really a family award because daughter number 1 is our kindergarten teacher. Daughter number 2 used to be our kindergarten teacher. Grandkids attend Naven. I can remember when you lived in Wisconsin, it was, and her husband would come all the way down here to Marysville to help Kate with her kindergartners and volunteer for a week or so. And so now they've moved and relocated to be near family, and we couldn't be happier. So mine volunteers with our kindergartners once or twice a week, sometimes more. She listens to them read, she tutors where needed, and they are so excited to see you come. But I do have one question. Yes. She is a retired high school English drama teacher. How is kindergarten?
About the same.
You know, they tell you everything they think and do and feel every minute of every day. So we are so appreciative to have you at Naven, and we thank you for everything you do for our kids. Thanks so much. And here you go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Oh, here, there's food. Oh, wait, and a certificate. And an apple. And do you want me to help you?
I can't.
Are you good? Oh, good point. Okay, you can put it right here in the chair. Annie will help you.
Thanks, Annie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll make Lynette get that for you later. Hi, I'm Karen Wells, principal at Northwood, and this year, like always, I sent out an email to the staff and said, hey, ideas for Good Apple. And I got more people responding this year than ever before, and they all said, Sarah Reichard, you gotta pick her. She just is here all the time. She does so much for us. And I know she has worked in third grade classrooms, fourth grade classrooms. She's worked in the library for numerous years. She's always there. And she's going to be embarrassed because I said, I have to talk about you. And she said, oh, God, don't say anything. And I said, well, you want me to just go, yes, Sarah, she does a good job. And she goes, yeah, that would be good. I would like that. But really, she does a fantastic job. Come on up here. And we, like everybody else says, we couldn't function without her, with all the things she's done for us. And sometimes it's small things, but if a teacher asks her to do something, they're like, she's got it done. And just running small groups and working with kids in reading has really supported us and all of our students, so we appreciate that. And I know she may not have a student at Northwood next year, but we still would like her to come back, and I'll just put her name right in that thing of volunteers. So we appreciate everything you do, and thank you.
Thank you.
And here's your... Congratulations. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erica Sipek, and I'm the principal of Raymond Elementary. And tonight I have the honor of introducing our Good Apple recipient. Her name is Erin Obley. Erin, This is my first year at Raymond, but when I sent everything out to staff asking who is our Good Apple nomination this year, the staff's resounding answer was Erin Obley. Erin has 2 children in the district, JT and Ellie, and so with great pleasure tonight, we honor her. Over the past 5 years, she has been an advocate and champion for our schools, and Erin actively volunteers in our Raymond PTO, as well as has been a substitute clinic aide within the district. Over the last few years, the staff at Raymond says that she's an outstanding volunteer, she's extremely supportive, and is helpful in every way. Erin's great communication skills has helped events like Book Fair and Fall Fest go off without a hitch. Erin has been an amazing support person for our staff over the many years and is always willing to jump in and help out at a moment's notice. Without Erin's support, Raymond would not be the same. We're truly fortunate to have her as part of our school community, and even though Creekview gets her next year, I know that she'll still be sticking around Raymond. So thank you, Erin.
Welcome. Want me to hold on to those? You want to go say hello?
Thank you.
Got it?
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jonathan Langhouse. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Marysville Schools, and I have the honor of representing Creekview tonight and reading the very nice things that they shared about Krista Fairchild. If you'd like to come up, please. It is with great pleasure and gratitude that we announce Krista Fairchild as the recipient of this year's Good Apple Award Volunteer of the Year for Creekview Intermediate. Krista has been an indispensable part of our school community for the past 5 years, serving as a choreographer for Creekview's annual musical productions. Despite her busy schedule as the owner and operator of Energy Arts Dance Studio, and with both of her children having graduated from Creekview Intermediate, Krista continues to dedicate her time, energy, and talents to enriching the lives of our students. Her commitment to our school and district is truly commendable. Krista's kindness, support, and generosity have left an indelible mark on Creekview Intermediate and the Marysville Exempted Village School District as a whole. Her willingness to give back to the community and her joyful approach to volunteering have had a profound impact on all those around her. Please join us in congratulating Krista on this well-deserved recognition. We are immensely grateful for her contributions and look forward to many more years of collaboration and friendship. Congratulations. Here's this, and then you also have a certificate. I'll take it over to Kevin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Koffenbarger. I'm the principal at Buntsville Middle School, and it's my pleasure to announce our Good Apple recipient, Mrs. Tracy Koski. Tracy's pivotal role as a team mom for the basketball program over the last 2 seasons has not only showcased her organizational prowess, but also revealed the depth of her character. Tracy's involvement goes beyond her official capabilities. She has also extended her support as the team mom for the golf team. Her dedication in fostering a positive and efficient environment within both sports has made her an indispensable asset. As a mother of Noah and Nathan Koski, Tracy's commitment to her own children is exemplary, and it's evident that she leads by example in her parenting. Her genuine, kind, and hardworking nature has left an indelible mark on those fortunate enough to interact with her. Tracy has seamlessly blended her personal qualities with her role as a team mom, making everything stress-free for the coaching staff by efficiently handling every administrative task that comes her way. This past summer, Tracy's dedication reached new heights as she generously donated extra time to ensure the success of a golf outing. The event not only showcased her organizational skills, but also raised an impressive $5,000 in funds for the basketball program. Tracy's proactive approach to fundraising and her tireless efforts to secure financial stability for the team have contributed significantly to the program's overall success. Tracy's nurturing demeanor extends beyond the administrative realm, particularly with young kids. She takes on the role of caregiver for the family's youngsters, earning her the affectionate title of Aunt Tracy. Her ability to connect with and look after the young members of the basketball family has created a sense of comfort and familiarity within the community. Her consistent presence has become the cornerstone of basketball-related events, and her nickname, Aunt Tracy, has become synonymous with warmth and reliability. My own kids, not my kids, the person that nominated her, expressed disappointment when she is not present at basketball-related gatherings, a testament to the impact she has made on their lives. Regardless of the situation, Tracy remains true to herself, always ready to lend a helping hand and do anything for anyone in need. Her altruistic nature, coupled with a perpetual smile, has made her a beloved figure within the community. As Tracy prepares to transition away from her role as team mom, it's evident that her departure will be deeply felt within the middle school program. Her legacy of kindness, hard work, and positive influence will undoubtedly endure, serving as a lasting testament to the impact one person can have on a sports program and the lives of those involved. I feel incredibly fortunate to have had the opportunity to know and work with Tracy. Her contributions will impact and be remembered by all. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Jen Hinderer, and I'm the principal at ECHS, and I'm excited to be here to honor Rich Granger, who is the Managing Director for Workforce and Economic Development at Drive, Ohio. Unfortunately, he did call this morning. He had a conflict and was not able to make it, but I still want to kind of recognize what he's done for our school. Over the past 2 years, he's been an invaluable partner in our STEM Solutions project, working closely with many of our students to help them grasp the real challenges and needs confronting Ohio in transportation, technology, and mobility. He is continually forging connections with professionals across industries and paved pathways for our students to explore and pursue their passions. He worked with a group of our students to hone in their project so they could present at the Success Bound conference last year. This year, Rich facilitated the Drive Ohio STEM collaboration between Dublin Emerald Campus, the City of Marysville, the City of Dublin, and our school, Early College High School. This collaboration provided our students with remarkable opportunities to delve into genuine challenges facing our growing cities. Not only has Rich been supportive of our students, but he's always been an invaluable resource for myself and our internship coordinator. He's always available for discussions on how we can best support students and their careers in Ohio. Rich has provided guidance on curriculum, supported our grant writing efforts, and connected us with experts from across the state. I am immensely grateful for Rich Granger and his steadfast commitment to our STEM building. We want to thank him for his unwavering dedication, passion, and support of innovation and learning for all students. Thank you.
All right, my name is Ken Chafin, and I'm principal at Marysville High School. And I would like to bring down our Apple Award winner, Tiffany Wood. I almost called you Tiffany DeVito because that was your name in high school. But Tiffany is a 1996 MHS grad. You didn't want me to say that? Okay. Her son, Jagger, was a 2020 ECHS grad. I had the good fortune to be his principal and also be the principal for her daughter, JoJo, who is a sophomore at MHS currently and a member of the class of 2026. Tiffany is the VP Senior Lending Officer at Richwood Bank, and Richwood Bank serves as a tremendous partner to our entire school district in the truest form. But Tiffany is also a leader, and I mean a leader. She's not just someone that you ask to come to the meeting. She's the one that compels other people to come to the meeting and get down in the dirt and work for our district. She's been a member of levy committees. She has served on the MEVSD Finance Committee. She's been attending our recent Let's Talk meetings here in Marysville schools and also participated in our Day of Giving efforts for extracurriculars. She's also a guest speaker frequently in both business classes and math classes. And it's not just once, she's there a lot. And we love having her in our building. She's also the president of the Cheerleading Booster Club, and that is big work, and she does it really, really well. Some might say the Lord's work. And she does it very, very well and helps get our kids some really great opportunities. And she's also a decorated dancer, dancing with her husband, Sean, in the inaugural Dancing with Our Stars in 2019. So I thought I would throw that fun fact out there. But Tiffany, we're very, very grateful for you at MHS. We thank you for all that you do and being the leader that you are for our kids. Thank you. You're welcome. All right.
Good evening again, everybody. Kay Howard, would you please come on up? I get the honor to read what the Tri-Academy staff has shared with us about Kay and why she is the Good Apple Award winner for Tri. Kay Howard has been an asset to our Tri-Academy family this school year. Each Thursday, she has come to Tri to introduce kids to various cooking skills, recipes, and foods. Our kids have enjoyed the opportunity to learn new things and to try foods that they are unfamiliar to them. This has developed the community within our school and also challenged our students to think outside of their comfort zone. We appreciate Mrs. Howard's dedication, compassion, and how she has added to the growth of our students. Thank you, Kay Howard. I'll hang on to this for you if you want to shake their hands. At this time, if all of our Good Apple Award winners could come up front for a photo opportunity with our Board of Education.
Okay, next on our agenda, it is my privilege to recognize our Employee of the Month. Let me pull up Allison Brennan from Naven. If you're And Allison, if you want to come forward, I'll read the comments that your peers have said. You can shake hands. And Allison is more than worthy of Employee of the Month recognition. Sorry. She is a creative thinker and makes learning fun for all students. She recruits students and produces our video announcements each day, making sure every child is represented and has the chance to be on the news. She is also very helpful to the staff whenever we have tech questions. Not only is she exceptional at her computer teaching job, but has become an integral part of Naven's multicultural fair, military family celebrations, and the One School, One Book program. When extra help is needed, Allison is there every time without being asked. She may be helping with breakfast at a PTO event, serving on the staff committee for a readathon, or dressed in a costume for the students' enjoyment. She helps keep the display cases beautiful, and she tutors kids in between her classes with reading and phonics. Allison is one of the first teachers in the building in the morning and one of the last teachers to leave in the evening. Allison is loved by all students and adults in our building, has a heart of gold, makes meaningful connections with each and every one of her students, and she loves making memories for our students to carry throughout their lifetime. Allison always has a smile on her face and is so sweet. You would never be able to tell she's having a bad day. She goes above and beyond and jumps in to help whenever needed. Naven would not be the same place without her. We love her. Congratulations, Allison. Allison, if you would stay up here, we'll get a picture with you.
Okay, at this point, I think public comment section. So do I need to read that whole thing? We'd like your name, address, and 3 minutes, please. And I'm sorry, Nancy Beals.
Right, we have you under Mr. Ferguson's part of the agenda. Okay.
Okay.
False alarm.
Yeah. All right, so now we're on to food service presentation. I'm sorry, Lori Pennington, food service presentation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening. I'm Lori Pennington. I'm the Director of Food and Nutrition at Marysville Schools. I've been here for a total of 4 years, but consecutive the last 3. So just to get started, I'd like to talk about our meal participation over the last couple years. When I came back in 2021 and 2022, that was the year after COVID, and we were all back in session, and it was a crazy year. All meals were free. We had major supply chain issues. We had to figure out how we were going to make sure we had trays for the students. That was the biggest challenge. So I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and started looking at what was in stock to make sure all the kids had trays and we had food for the kids. So it was a challenging year. We also had challenges with storage because we were serving so many meals because they were free, breakfast and lunch. So to compare over previous years, it was with COVID, it's kind of hard to do. So I am comparing last year when we went back to the traditional National School Lunch Program and breakfast program. So last year we had 169 days total, and then in parentheses is through March 31st, so it's a better comparison. But our breakfast counts, are up compared to the daily or through March 31st on the days. So daily average, we're doing 522 breakfasts a day, and lunches we did 2,155. So this year, we're up to 574, and I can tell you for the month of April, we're already up. We continue to grow. And even for lunches, we're doing over 2,200, and that continues to grow. Bunsell, all of a sudden, we're feeding more kids. 450 is like their daily average, when at the beginning of the year, it was only 400. So we continue to grow. Breakfast, 9% increase so far, and 4% for lunches. So very proud of that and my staff for working hard to do that, and we hope to continue feed kids. Everybody wants to know percentages for free and reduced. And again, in 2021 and 2022, the families did not have to fill out an application except if they wanted their fees waived. So that's why there's a 13.9%. I can tell you for the history of Marysville, when I look back, our average was between 18 and 20%. So the 19.9% for last year, that's pretty accurate. For this year, we are at 27.4%. And the reason for that is this year, the USDA approved the state of Ohio to allow Medicaid through a direct certification for families to qualify. This is the first year Medicaid can actually be used to qualify students for free or reduced lunches. So we're feeding more kids because free and reduced numbers are up. Some updates that we've done over the last 3 years is we purchased menu software, and actually it was with the previous food service director in communication with me through the transition, we decided this would be the best route to go because there's so much paperwork involved for the USDA. It's a federally funded program. We are self-funded. No general fund money goes into the food service program. So we need to make sure we're crossing our I's and dotting our you know what I'm saying. I've got it backwards. Dotting our I's and crossing our T's for when we get reviewed, because we do get reviewed financially almost every year. Every 5 years, the Ohio Department of Education will come in to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So we need something better than paper and pencil to track everything. I got this program, it's called Healthy Pro, and it does menu planning. It helps us make sure our menus are compliant. It also helps the ladies with production records that we're required to have. So they can look back and see what we prepped, what we served, what is waste, and we can get better and better every year using this as a tool to make sure we're providing enough food for the students and not running out and not throwing away a whole lot of food. It also helps with their ordering. It also helps with recipes. When I came on and I'm like, where's your recipe book? It's all in a notebook, and some of them are outdated. This is updated. I update them, and it goes right to the schools immediately. So it just saves a lot of time, especially with 9 schools. The ease of ordering, it will predict for my kitchen staff. They can put in that I'm going to serve 400 kids on this day, and we're going to forecast maybe 100 cheeseburgers, 50 pizzas or whatever for the week, and it will tell them how much of that product to order. And all the item codes and everything are on there, so they don't have to do a search. It's right, all that information is right there for them. So we are getting better with that. So that's an easy tool for them to use. The other part of the program is for the parents and families, and it's digital menus. Parents can log onto our website and look at the menus, get the nutrition facts, see the carb counts. They can go in different languages. It's right there for all the families to use. And the other part, the biggest thing is making sure our menus are compliant. It's getting harder and harder to make sure we meet all these requirements. Some other updates we've done here in the last year, there was a line at the high school that has been closed probably for 10 years, and it was just empty space. So we need to reopen that to give the kids more options. And we opened it, and we call it Creation Station, which at this time, most of the kids prefer the Fiesta Bar or our own, what we call Chipotle, our version of it. That seems to be their favorite, so we put it on every day, but we do change it up where it's burritos or nachos or something. That seems to be their favorite so far. The other thing we brought in it's called Smart Mouth Pizza. It's a company where the dough, everything meets the requirements for our lunch, but it's a 7-inch personal pan pizza. And we make them individually. It's less waste, and the kids are loving it. We also brought on some new menu items. I try to bring in new items every year, and then we review it with our Healthy Pro program, and we look at and see what items are popular and how much the cost is, and to see if we need to remove it or maybe put it on the menu more often. That program does all that for me too. So some of the new items that we brought in it's called a cowboy quesadilla, which is a mac and cheese and barbecue pork, items that we already have on the menu, but just creating something new and put it in a quesadilla. So we're trying to utilize products we already use as well. The other item we have, we can do beef and noodle, or we can do a beef and potato like sundae and put a cherry tomato on top to make it look like a sundae. Having beef as a commodity besides a hamburger patty was the first time this year. Usually it's turkey, chicken, pork, and beef, because it's so expensive, was never a commodity item, but this year was the first year, so I'm using a new product, and the students seem to like it. This isn't one of their favorites. Their favorites is the popcorn chicken bowl, which we call Monarch Bowl. So we will continue with that. And there's other items on our menu. We've added sweet and sour chicken with rice to the elementary menu as something new. They seem to like that. But it's amazing how one building really likes it and the other one may not. So it's kind of hard to please everybody. But that's why we try to offer different choices on the menu. One of the big things that I always like to focus on is quality, to make sure we're serving quality food to our kids. And I always stress to my staff that everybody eats with their eyes, so we need to make it look good, we need to make it taste good. So I've done things like bringing chefs in for training. I worked with Dublin City Schools. One of their chefs came here. I helped them with getting all their staff Serve Safe certified. So they allowed me to have a chef from their school district that came in on an in-service day, made it voluntary. Like a lot of the staff showed up. We worked on knife skills. We worked on seasoning foods. We worked on, instead of steaming the vegetables all the time, you get bored with the same thing all the time, on how to roast vegetables properly, and it doesn't take any more time than steaming. So we've added some things like a roasted Parmesan broccoli, and it seems to be very good. The kids that try it really like it, but there's just some kids that won't touch broccoli. So we offer different things every day. And we add different seasonings that it's no sodium. One of the other things after COVID I found that was lacking was during the COVID and the supply chain issues, when we were serving so many meals, it was all about just getting food on the trays and taking care of the kids. And we were serving so much food that food safety really didn't matter because we were going so fast. I mean, it does matter, but we weren't having any food setting out long periods because we were just going through it so fast. So we have to come back and focus on food safety. I tell my staff and head cooks food safety is just as important as the bottom line because we need to make sure we're serving a safe product to our kids. So along with not having paper and pencil, what we did all of our temperatures on, I purchased a program where we do digital temperatures. Then that way I can make sure they're doing their temperatures on a daily basis because it just uploads to a computer program. We updated our sensors in our freezers and coolers. That way I get notified, our maintenance department gets notified if our freezers and coolers start going down. We can get somebody in right away to look at it so we don't lose any product. Another project that I came up with is from a previous district. I always did weekly safety topics. So I send these out to our staff. We talk about cross-contamination, how to prevent, why we're washing our hands, how to do it properly, wearing hair nets, just different things every week. I try to send out a weekly topic and make sure my head cooks and kitchen managers are communicating that information to their staff. And when I go around, I do ask questions to make sure it's being reviewed. And one major other is we're updating equipment. We do have some aging equipment in our district. So we're trying to get more efficient equipment in new dishwashers because some are 30 years old. We just can't get parts anymore. So we have to update our equipment. And one of the biggest ones was Naven. Their serving line was actually the size for high school students. And I saw these little kindergartners just trying to reach up and get fruits and vegetables. So we did replace that line and made it more elementary length size like the other schools. And then we also did some updates. So this was what the high school looked like last year and previous years. A lot of yellow, green, kind of reminded me of the 70s a little bit. So we wanted to update some of our kitchens. So this is the high school before, and today, and the entrance was just nothing but white walls. You didn't know where the serving area was. So we've updated, we painted gray, and we did school colors in our kitchens. Because school colors will never go out of style unless the colors get changed for some reason down the road. But this is the entrance, so now everybody knows where they need to enter to go to the high school cafeteria. And then this is where they walk in, so they see that window. They used to be able to see everything. So we wanted to cover that, but my staff can still see out through it. So, and we also have digital menus at the high school, and we have signs that we're required to have to notify what is a reimbursable lunch and what a breakfast is to the students. And then we've updated our lines. There's the creation station. We moved the pizza line because there used to be a bottleneck right next to the pizza line and the main entree, especially when it's Monarch Bowl. And they were right next to each other, bottleneck. So we moved the pizza line over to the other side of the serving area, made it bigger because pizza is very popular. And we had this move the salad bar, and then we also put down the middle, instead of having it in one location, students can go on both sides and get their fresh fruits and vegetables, and we also have a hot vegetable on the line. Then we also updated the snack, what the students call the snack shack. It was just white walls with pipes and stuff, so we tried to cover everything up and add some more signage, colorful, to make it more inviting for students to come in. And they can get meals in this area as well. At early college, it was blue, like a primary blue to me. So for high school students, we wanted to make it more appealing for them to come in. So we did, in the cafeteria, we added some signage for Monarch and, things that would go with like STEM school. And then this is the entrance. We're still waiting for a digital monitor there on the main wall, but we did dark gray and we did the blue and gray and added some more signage. At Bunsell, it was yellow, a lot of yellow and some blue, not some of my favorite colors together. So we wanted to update that. So this is the entrance. So again, the students now know where to enter. And we did white and dark gray as the main colors, and then we did the blue and red continually. And I think it looks really sharp. It makes it more brighter with the white in that area. At Creekview, it was already pretty much white and stainless, so we just did some signage. We didn't paint. And we added the blue wrap on the front line, which really toned down the stainless steel. And then just some updates, what we did at the elementaries, we added some signage to encourage students to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, make it more colorful, make it more inviting to come in and have lunch and breakfast. And we also, in the cafeteria area, we added action signs like physical activity is important. So we just want to encourage good nutrition, activity throughout the day for the students. What we did for the signage updates, all the schools received a healthy zone, so it has nutrition facts on there about tomatoes, different things. Every month we update it. The menu boards, all our professional menu boards, and for the K through 8, so we're not just putting a piece of paper where the students can rip it down and keep replacing it. Digital menu boards for the high school, the identification boards, all schools have to have. We also have to post all of our health inspections, it's required. So again, instead of having it up and students ripping it down, it's in a framed case, so they can't take that down. And also we are required, it's our civil rights posters that we're supposed to have up for ODE. They're in frames, so that way they don't fall apart. Challenges for the last few years at staffing, and I think that will be a problem across the board for all departments, even in the future. The change in regulations that we continue to have. Next year, they want to reduce the sodium as more than what it is right now and reduce sugar. So that's going to be really challenging with those items. The whole grain requirement, it used to be just 50% of your menu had to be whole grain. They increased that to 80% this year. And it's really hard to find a whole grain biscuit that's very good because it's just very dense. So that's my one item on our menu that is not whole grain. We continue to have some supply issues, not as bad as it was 2 years ago, but we do still have some. The biggest challenge is rising cost. It's just like the grocery store. Our food prices are going up, labor is going up with the benefits and supplies. So I'm always shopping around, making sure we get the right deal. I did switch to a different purchasing group. I'm actually a member of two of them, but with our prime vendor, I switched to a company called HPS, and they're just bigger than Meta. I still am a member of Meta because of the companies they might have that the other one doesn't, but with GFS, I seem to get better pricing with this HPS group. We had a reduction in funding mid-year. That was a Christmas present to all food service directors across the nation, that our entitlement dollars for USDA foods was reduced, and actually ours was cut completely. So I had to start paying for fresh fruits and vegetables full price. It wasn't, we were getting it at no charge, and now we're paying for it. And items that were commodities, we got, for example, a case of chicken nuggets was $42. Now we're paying $80 for it. So we will get entitlement money back next year, but we don't get it till July 1. We also had a reduction in reimbursement in 2021 and 22. We were getting the summer rate, which I don't have that rate from that time, but I looked it up what this year's is. It's $4.72 versus the national school rate is $4.26. So there's a big difference. And then the other item with summer program, you don't have to offer as much food as you do with the national school lunch program. So we're given more food, but less money to serve it with. Other updates for the program, started a head cook training program. And many times in schools, you see, here's the keys, try to figure it out. And I don't like doing that because it's been done a lot to me in my years. So I started a training program, and it's worked out very well. People, when we have an open position, they're prepared. They know what to expect. And so far, I've had 3 people go through the training program. 2 of them are currently head cooks because of retirements or a resignation. And I have 2 going through the training program right now, and I got 2 on a waiting list. So I'm excited to continue with this program. It's all based on staffing. If I don't have enough staff, I can't do the training program. We also have a food service trainer position that we created this year. One is to have somebody kind of extra for staffing needs, because there's always somebody calling off. That way we can make sure we're taking care of the students. And also training. Elementaries it's hard with most of them have two people, but to train a cashier at the beginning of a school year along with trying to serve the food, it's very difficult. So either I'm out there, my admin's out there, and we need to, do free and reduced applications to get those done at the beginning of the year. So with Marilyn Clodfelder to be our trainer, it's amazing, and I'm going to have her focus on food safety, regulations, and customer service. We need to do a better job how we're talking to the students. So that's something that we're working on. I already talked about the free and reduced qualification, where it's Medicaid is a qualifier. Now that's Medicaid, it could be Medicaid reduced, or it could be Medicaid free. I don't know the formula of how they figure it out. It's just I upload the students' names, and then I get a list back, and it tells me what they are. So one of the biggest things, too, in the governor's budget for this year and next year, reduced meals, the state of Ohio is picking up the cost of the parents, 30 cents and the 40 cents. So the reduced parents, the families that qualify for reduced lunches pay nothing. So that's exciting for them, even for next year. And the summer program for this summer, I'm working with the public library to get that back. And that's my update. Any questions?
No, but thank you. That's overwhelming. Just overwhelming. And
I could probably talk for hours, but
well, and the undercover boss, I snuck in and had a lunch the other day, and it was at the high school, and it was fantastic. So the presentation of the whole facility is fantastic, And I didn't think it was bad in the past, but it's unbelievable now, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. It's unbelievable what you've had to juggle with over the last few years, especially. So thank you so much. I had to cook for a family of 4. I can't imagine having to cook for, 2,200 kids a day. That's amazing. Thank you so much for the Healthy Pro program. I think that really probably helps your efficiency a lot and helps you control the hundreds of things that it looks like that you're having to control with food service. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for your innovation. Many of the things you said are very innovative ideas and ways for the district to save money and ways for you to increase your efficiency and ways to make your customer happy. So, and making high school students happy, I think, must be challenging.
It's very challenging, yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you and I had a conversation. I had an opportunity to go to Washington and talk on behalf of our food service. The sugar and salt regulations, and we talked about how difficult that is in order to try and find things which are tasty and attractive items that particularly high school students will choose. And I was taken by the way you described what you're doing as operating a restaurant and how you every day have people that walk in and they have a lot of choices. They can, bring their lunch to school. They can buy something at school. There are choices within the options there at school. And to try to find the taste that students appreciate and like, to be able to present it in the food in an appealing way, that the fresh fruit looks fresh and delicious, and that the hot meals are really hot, and you've now gone to making the setting in which you are serving the meals and things much more attractive. And so it's no wonder that you have more students coming in and utilizing the services that you're providing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Your restaurant seems to be thriving.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation tonight, and I know that your lunch is probably the favorite class of most students in our district, and that's kudos to you guys and your team. I had one question about with our EL population growing, how is the food service department? Are there any challenges that are presented with connecting with students, and as our diversity grows, is there any pros or cons with from the food service side to connect and make sure that those students are getting access to those meals and communication?
It is challenging. What we've done is with the digital menus, they can go in any language. Parents just need to select what language. Our website is also that where you can do Google Translate. I have all the documents free reduced. I have a link to go to the USDA website where they have probably every language you can think of that parents can download. But I also have the Spanish one and the English posted on our website and be able to print those off. With the students in the line, it was really hard last year because it seemed like we had an influx last year. And my staff is trying to get kids through very quickly because they only have a limited amount of time. So it was kind of hard. But we made some signs and we posted, like, please take, one fruit. And we have pictures with it in Spanish and English. And that seemed to help very well where they understand, like, take one milk, not 2 or 3. So that helps. And for the Bunsell and high school students, I worked with Jonathan and the ELA teachers on like an orientation of explaining the food service program. And it is kind of hard to call when they call and communicate over the phone. So I always encourage them to try to, if they have time, can come in and talk with me. And, because it's just sometimes easier, I can show them things on the computer too. So it is challenging, but we're working on things in the future to get better with that, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's all I have.
I was
All right,
going to say.
thank you very much.
I was just
I'm
going to
sorry,
say,
Matt.
when my two girls begged me to buy lunch on specific days, I know good things are going on in the cafeteria, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
We're up to the superintendent's report.
Perfect, thank you. Let's start with enrollment. We're currently at 5,613 students. We're 11 weeks into K enrollment. So if we take a deep dive into K, we're at 303 students in regular kindergarten. We had 316 this time last year, so we're trending pretty close. And then all K registration currently has 31 students. Last year, this time 39. So we're still in the same ballpark. If you think about this year's graduating class isn't quite 400, so we have a kindergarten class coming in about the same size as the one leaving, or would appear that way right now. Staffing update, I decided not to update this every single day because it seems to be changing pretty quickly, whether we're hiring or people are submitting resignations, but we have about 30 openings currently. That is right in trend with a typical year at this point. So we're continuing to move through that process and get people. Even on tonight's agenda, you've seen some ads of new hires. Transportation task force. So the task force, we sent out a district-wide email. We had responses to a proposed draft schedule. The task force is getting together later this month. They're going to discuss those results and then start to brainstorm and look at some potential options that may attempt to remedy some of the concerns that surface. We're also going to set up kind of open nights. I think we have 4 open nights in different buildings where parents can come in and talk as well, depending on the outcome of a next version. Let's talk. I want to remind everyone, I guess I would start with earlier this month, we had a Let's Talk meeting in the Raymond area. I thought it went really well. Did not have a huge turnout, but certainly lots of good questions that we were able to answer. We are having a community meeting on May 14th. We have a postcard ready to go out to the community. That will be more of a town hall style meeting held here at 7 o'clock. So we'll also do a social media launch for that as well. The past few weeks, and I have several more weeks to go, I've been meeting with all graduating seniors, talking about their student experience. Really, as you know, our district has been focusing on the student experience and shifting to a student-led experience. And so really you're just getting feedback from every student about what are we doing well in that area, what could we improve on in that area. So we have gotten some pretty valuable feedback. Our plan with that feedback is kind of put that together. We'll have admin retreat at the end of May, and we'll be sharing that with them. I think we also are planning on potentially inviting some of those seniors back to admin retreat to have a conversation with principals and talk about some takeaways. So excited to to get that going as well. I wanted to do one kind of thank you, one congratulations. So congratulations to Todd Flaharty at BMS. He was recognized as the Middle School Athletic Director of the Year yesterday. And I also wanted to thank our transportation department. Yesterday, the tornado warning could not have come through at a worse time, but we were on release or drive home from Creekview in the elementary routes. Our buses were able to follow our protocols, ensure everyone was safe and everyone was delivered back home. So definitely stressful situations, and wanted to make sure I gave them the appropriate recognition and thank you.
Okay, Treasurer's report. Well, were there any questions? I should have said that. I assume none.
Okay, for my report, I'm going to be presenting the May 5-year forecast. We should have a PowerPoint coming up here shortly. There we go. And is this going to work, James, or I just need to holler? Well, it does. Thank you. Okay, so the 5-year forecast for May, first and foremost, we're updating the actual numbers, or getting them pretty close to actual for fiscal year 24, since we're pretty close to the end of the fiscal year, and then updating any projections in those out years. The first slide here is really the most telling slide of the forecast. As I'm digging into the details and all the numbers, and then I just look at this, I'm like, well, that really tells the whole story very simply. So a few things to highlight there. As usual, the red line represents expenditures, and the blue line represents revenues. In fiscal year 24, you'll see, especially if you have binoculars, you'll see that revenues actually exceeded expenditures in fiscal year 24. And that's the only time you're going to see that in those out years. And somewhat of an anomaly in fiscal 24, we had $3.6 million in new state funding this year. And then we also had over $2 million in expenditure cuts due to the failed levy. So that was a swing of, well over close to $6 million just with those two things. So that was the big driver as to why we had expenditures or revenues exceeding expenditures. So you see in all those out years, we have what's known as an operating deficit, which is when expenditures exceed revenues. And I put yellow stars. I think maybe a gold star wasn't the right thing to use because it's not a good thing up there. But we've gotten a couple questions lately regarding the state auditor and their fiscal watch or fiscal emergency designations. So that's what those yellow stars represent there. So the criteria for fiscal watch is if expenditures exceed revenues in a fiscal year by more than 8% of prior year revenues, okay? So it's a simple calculation. So if you look at fiscal year 25, there is an operating deficit, and it is more than 8% of prior year revenues. So we would be in fiscal watch in fiscal year 25. Fiscal watch simply is the state auditor is going to say, hey, we see a potential fiscal problem here. What are you going to do to fix it? If you look further out there in fiscal year 27, that operating deficit is getting larger, and the fiscal emergency designation criteria is 15%, is an operating deficit that is 15% higher than prior year revenues. So in fiscal year 27, based on current forecast, we would be in fiscal emergency with the state auditor. Now that's several years out, so that's not a concern, an immediate concern, but the main worry with fiscal emergency is relatively rare, but that's where the state auditor can come in and start, basically, they're not going to come in and increase our revenues, which means they're going to come in and just, start making cuts. So that's not a place anybody wants to be. Couple other highlights there. The green line represents the ending cash balance. So you can see there in fiscal year 27, towards the end of the forecast, we're down to about $4.5 million there. So that's less than 1 month of expenditures. So not much of a reserve at that point. And then the end of the forecast, fiscal year 28, that would show a deficit, so an actual cash deficit of close to $9 million. And feel free to jump in if you have questions. I don't mind. The board does have an ending cash balance policy. So this slide just kind of represents, how is our projected cash doing in accordance with the policy. So the first criteria there, 1 month of expenditures, it maintained as a cash balance. So as I mentioned, we're doing okay there through fiscal year '26, but then you can see the cash balance starts dropping pretty rapidly to where fiscal '27 and '28, we would not be complying with our policy. And then the second criteria of that policy is not having expenditures exceeding revenue by more than 1%. And unfortunately, we have that beginning in fiscal year '25.
Can I ask a question that we're asked sometimes? So why wouldn't we wait? If we have this cash balance, why shouldn't we spend the cash balance? Why wouldn't we wait?
Right. So the biggest reason is the longer you wait, the more you've got to ask for. And part of that comes down to the collection period. So if you pass a levy in 2024, you begin collecting in 2025. If you wait a year to pass that levy, that's a full year that you didn't collect that money. So to do basically accomplish the same thing with a levy that you wait a year for example, the levy that we're looking at, if we waited an additional year to put that on the ballot, we would have to increase that amount by 2 mills. So we would be looking at a 7.5 mil instead of 5.5. And that's, really the key why we don't just look at the ending cash balance, why we also look at that revenue versus expenditures line, because that's really the key line to recognize when you're starting to have some fiscal problems.
Right. Todd, is there ever a point where the state would just come in and give us enough money to run the school district?
I don't know of that point. No, not to my knowledge. Okay, the next slide gives a high-level look at fiscal year '24 general fund revenues. So we had revenues just over $64 million. You can see there the split of local versus state. This year we're at about close to 55% local compared to about 45% state. And that continues to trend a little higher on the local. We did have a nice jump in state this year as well, though. Compared to November, fiscal year '24 revenue in total was up by about $1.2 million. That was almost entirely due to real estate collections were up, and I'll hit that a little bit more on the next slide. There is an update to this forecast compared to what I sent you probably just a week ago, and I hate doing that because I could update this again a week later and another week and another week, but I felt it was significant and I wanted to get it as accurate as possible. So ODE had an error in our the foundation settlement that I used to create that forecast. So we get a settlement sheet twice a month. Okay, so when I got that April number 2 settlement, that error had been corrected, which increased the funding for this year by about $100,000. So that's included in this forecast now. And the good news with that is we really have 2 lines of our state funding. There's the restricted and unrestricted. We were trending under budget, under projections on the unrestricted. We were a little bit over projection on the restricted. So now we're to the point that they pretty much offset, and we're right on track with where we were projected we would be in November. The other thing, and this was honestly one of the bigger surprises to me, was our tangible personal property reimbursement. That's something we talk about each year. That came in just this month, $200,000 over projections. And that's something in our forecast. There's a formula based on the law, and it's pretty much been pretty accurate every year, year after year. But each year the state, ODE, puts out a spreadsheet that says, here's what you get, and then here's what you're going to get next year. So they don't always do the next year, but they did this time. So we've got a fiscal '24 number and a fiscal '25 number. My expectation all along was that next year we would have 0 or next to 0, maybe $100,000 or something like that in the big scheme. Isn't a large number on this budget. Now, based on that ODE document, we will receive around $463,000 next year. So that was good news and an increase to the forecast. I would not expect anything in fiscal '26 because that would equate to the drop. We've been seeing drops of around $600,000 a year. That eased up a little bit this year, so we only dropped by about $450,000. But if we dropped by $450,000 again, that would put us at 0 the following year.
So just quick question. With that unexpected increase there? Can they come back and take it back, say, this was a mistake?
I don't think it's a mistake because it is in a actual written document. So I don't think that there is a mistake. I'm not sure. At the same time, I don't know why it increased compared to projections. So this slide compares local versus state funding. Several things to point out there. The yellow line is our local revenue. The state line is state revenues, and there's multiple things included in there. So, for example, the fiscal year 24 local revenue line, there's a pretty big jump there. A few different items in there. One, our interest revenues this year increased by $1 million, and that's due to interest rates jumping significantly. So that's part of that spike. And then the other part of that spike is due to the real estate tax that I mentioned, due in part to, increase in new construction values, the triennial update. And then also a big factor is, and it kind of gets into the weeds here a little bit, but we are presenting a fiscal year here that ends June 30th. The county auditor collects taxes based on a calendar year. So what we have right now as our most recent collection is really just the first collection of the calendar year. So we won't really know for certain how the full year looks until we get that second collection in September, October, and then we'll do a November forecast that'll update based on that. But it would appear that just the collection for the year is trending up, but also the collection for this first half is probably a little higher than what we would normally get in a first half collection, which would most likely mean that that second half, from a percentage standpoint, will be a little less than what we've typically seen in the past. And really that large triennial update probably had a large impact on certain people on when they paid their taxes.
Todd, I had a question. Just to those that may look at that and say, okay, the local revenue, how it decreases, what's the best way to explain that? When there's more homes, property values continue to rise.
So the decrease you're seeing in fiscal 25, the two main reasons you'd see a decrease there. One, that $1 million increase in interest revenues this year. We're expecting interest rates to decrease significantly, and then we're also going to have a cash balance that's going to be decreasing as well. So you're going to see interest revenues dropping throughout the 5-year forecast. But then also, as I just mentioned, that first half collection that is fiscal year 24, I think that's going to prove to be a larger percentage than normal. So that means that second half collection, which is going to be part of fiscal year 25, is going to be decreased. So that's also going to drive why that number goes down. But then you look at those out years, you're going to start to see somewhat small but significant increases that are projected throughout. And then also just to, whenever you're levy time, there's always a little added pressure on the 5-year forecast to be as accurate as possible. So with, a couple years of new construction value increases that have been higher than they historically have been, I've updated the 5-year forecast for May to show larger increases in the out years for new construction. So it's a little bit more optimistic. And then also, and I'll hit that on another slide, we've got the reappraisal coming up in 2025, so I've also increased the assumption for that number as well. So then also looking to the state funding, that red line, again, you'll see increases there. In the past, I've usually been very conservative and assumed it would be relatively flat, and oftentimes it was. But we have had, the state has been kicking in more funding into the formula, which is why we got the big increase we did this year. We're relatively certain what our funding will be next year, except for what enrollment is. That's going to be the biggest driver of change. But we do have projections from the state what that number is going to look like next year. So pretty confident in that number. In the past, there's many times we were a cap or a formula, a cap or a guarantee district, which meant oftentimes that regardless of what our enrollment did, our funding wouldn't change. Now we're what's called a formula district, which means the formula is working for us. If we go up by one student, our funding will change. If we go down by one student, our funding will change. So that funding line is going to be a lot more volatile now, so just keep that in mind. So this projection is entirely based on in growth of 100 students next year. If we don't grow by 100 students or we grow by more, that number is going to change.
Why are we a formula district now?
We're a formula district now because the state pumped in enough money to actually fund the formula that's in place. So if you think about in the past when we were what's called a cap district, the formula said we should receive X dollars per student, but because the state wasn't putting enough money into the formula, it couldn't afford to fund us at the level we were supposed to be funded. So the state has, again, pumped in some more money for schools. And then also another big variable in this state funding projections is fiscal 26 and beyond. That's going to be a new biennium. So we don't know what state funding will look like then. We don't know if it'll be the same formula, entirely different formula. We don't know the level of funding the state will be pumping into the formula at that time. So a lot of things could change there as well. So I feel like this is realistic and probably more optimistic of a state projection than what I would have done in the past. Values, so we received our 2023 values. They increased in total by just over 2% compared to the prior year. That's mostly due to new construction. We're very near to the 20 mil floor now, which is the state law, by state law, with the minimum tax rate that the school district has to have. So we're at 20.11. We can only drop down to 20. That is the bare minimum. So our taxpayers are, getting a very good, a very efficient tax rate by living in Marysville schools. The next update in values is in 2025, which will be the reappraisal, which would begin for collections in 2026. The forecast estimates a 12% increase in values. Definitely point out that the Property Tax Reform Committee that's been meeting and has a deadline of December 24th to make recommendations could definitely have a negative impact on our property tax collections. So, I think somebody could make the argument, well, 12% might be conservative compared to what we received the last triennial update. But every recommendation that I've heard floated out so far that I think that the committee is looking at, each one of those would negatively impact our revenue. So I think depending on, there's no certainty, but depending on what happens, there's a good chance that school district revenues could be hurt by those changes.
Is that 12% increase, is that generally accepted number through the auditor's office or through the other school treasurers, or where's that number coming from?
There's not really a generally accepted number. There's just an assumption that you make based on history, and then also looking at what values are doing. You could look across other. The reappraisal and the triennial update hits different areas in different times. So, we had ours a couple years ago. Franklin County had theirs last year. So you can also keep an eye on what other sectors of the state are doing and, make updates based on that. Okay, this looks at expenditures a little bit. Salaries and benefits make up 88% of operating costs. That's actually a slight drop compared to, I think, before we'd been about the 89, 90 percentile. That is due to an increase in purchase services this year. We had a $500,000 increase in special ed, basically special ed tuition, where we have students that are going to other facilities due to, high special needs, as well as a program called excess costs. That's where, maybe a student that is court-placed in another district but has special needs, and that student has much higher cost than a traditional student, we get billed back for that. So all those things are in state law. So those were costs that we really couldn't avoid. Then also you'll see that the increase from fiscal 24 to fiscal 25, if you look at it, the trend, it's a much higher increase than what you'd seen in the prior years. So a couple factors there. First and foremost, that's our ESSER funding is going to be fully spent in fiscal year 24. There may be just a touch left to go into fiscal 25, but not a significant number. So what that means is in fiscal year 25, there's going to be $2.1 million of expenditures that would have been the ESSER fund this year that are going to be coming back to the general fund. And again, just as a reminder, with the ESSER funding that we got, we didn't go hire new staff that then we had to figure out how we're going to pay for them, when that money's gone. We used that ESSER funding to pay for existing general fund staff, to save the general fund dollars, save our taxpayers' dollars. But now that funding is gone, those existing staff members now will come back to the general fund. So that's a big reason for why you're seeing the bigger jump in the trend. But then also due to needs that we have based on growing enrollment as well, and more so growing special needs enrollment, there's going to be an increase of $1.1 million next year due to increased staffing. Of that $1.1 million, about $680,000 is the actual salary piece. The other piece is anticipated benefits, insurance, retirement, those kinds of things. You can look at what anticipated enrollment will be next year. We have a pretty good idea because we know from preschool students and Harold Lewis preschool students who's going to be coming into our elementaries. We know what fourth grade students and what needs they have that are going to be going into Creekview and so on and so forth. So we have a pretty good idea of what those staffing needs will be, but at the same time, those are projections and could change. Also of note, as I mentioned, the salaries and benefits being the largest cost we have. Our insurance rates, again, has continued to be the fastest growing expenditure on our books. We've been growing 8 to 10% per year in expenditures for insurance. Just for perspective, that equates to roughly $800,000. So $800,000 increase in expenditures is roughly the same as about $750,000. So that's definitely a tough expenditure to keep up with. Levy history slide. No new money levies since 2008, so that's 16 years ago. It's worth noting all of our current levies are continuing levies, so there's no emergency levies or things like that on this our current levies that we're collecting on. That means with those those continuing levies, we don't collect additional revenue. Those revenues don't grow. We are close to the 20 mil floor though, and once you hit the 20 mil floor, that's as low as you can go. So at that point, you would start to receive some increases based on inflationary valuation increases. So that's one thing that could help avoid, we've been talking a lot about the levy cycle and because our revenues don't grow. So that's one thing that will help or could help to avoid the levy cycle, or at least to decrease the millage that we would need each time that we go for a levy. So speaking of levies, so we're proposing a $5.5 million levy for the November 2024 ballot that would begin collections in 2025. You've got the levy resolution on the agenda tonight that shows it would collect roughly $6.4 million per year. That would cost a homeowner $192.50 per $100,000 of value. So if you live in a house that is worth $300,000, just take that number times 3. Just use that number so it's simple for multiplication. So as I noted, the cash balance policy we talked about earlier talks about the ending cash balance as well as that operating deficit or surplus. So if you look at Our 5-year forecast, we can't assume a 5-year forecast in the levy, but I can simulate this for you. So this forecast shows the 5.5 mil levy passing. So a couple things to point out there. You'll see that even with the levy passing, we still have expenditures exceeding revenues in each year of the forecast. It does do what we want it to do with our ending cash balance. So we would get out to fiscal year 28. We would have close to $13 million. So that would be roughly 2 months worth of cash, 2 months worth of expenditures as a cash balance. I would point out that next October, when we do this forecast again, we'll have fiscal year 29 added in. So when we add fiscal year 29, that cash balance is then going to be it'll be below our cash balance policy. We'll have less than a month at that point. So a couple items to consider. I already mentioned the foundation program and us being on the formula. That's a good thing because as we grow, that means we're going to get additional revenue, but it also means that our funding will be a little more volatile and subject to change. I noted that the new biennium is coming up, so also adds a little more variability to the forecast and those projections. I noted the property tax reform. I do feel like that's going to negatively impact our real estate tax collections, but we'll see as the time comes. We do get questions here and there about solar farms. I would say solar farms are very uncertain. There's no revenue in my projections based on solar farms. I've been through multiple training sessions with other treasurers that talk about solar farms, and I would say they're not a silver bullet. I've not heard any treasurer say, thank goodness we have these solar farms. It's totally solved all our problems. I've heard more of them complain because the money doesn't come in as soon as they said it was going to, and it's not as much as they said it was going to be. So we're just going to hold off, and once we actually have some certainty, then we'll have numbers to go off of. Another potential negative to the forecast could be the expanded voucher program. That's going to potentially increase the number of students that are going to other schools. Whether that's good or bad, that will have an impact on our enrollment, and that'll have a negative impact on our funding. If you look at total revenue versus total expenditures, for the 5 years of the forecast, total revenue is estimated to grow by roughly 1% annually, compared to expenditures growing by roughly 4.4% annually. So that's not sustainable. We do have an ending cash balance right now that will allow us to pass a levy that would still have an operating deficit, but we're eating into that cash balance. So I guess what I'm saying is with a 5.5 mil levy, we're kind of intentionally using that large current cash balance to not have a larger levy. To pass a levy that would allow us to not be in an operating deficit would be a double-digit ask to the community. So we're dipping into that cash reserve. Another variable in the forecast, our union agreements expire at the end of June 30th, 2025. So any salaries in those out years are going to be projections. And as I noted, 88% of our expenditures coming on the staffing and benefits line. Really any significant cuts that we would make that would help that operating deficit would most likely come from staffing. And I think, as we've done some of these, let's talk or, facts presentations for the levy, and you look at the revenue versus expenditures, I think, a question that would be obvious to ask is you've got revenue, you got expenditures exceeding revenues. We just need to cut expenditures to get more in line. And I would say that we don't really have an expenditure problem. We have a revenue problem. We're already relatively understaffed, so to make additional cuts would be pretty detrimental to the district. We have an expenditure per pupil that is $2,400 below the state average, and we already operate with we're in the 90s, let me start over there. 92% of Ohio schools have more teachers per student than Marysville schools, so showing we have many less teachers per pupil. And 84% of Ohio schools have more administrators per student. So we're also low staffed when it comes to administration. On the revenue side, we're operating on $4,944 revenue per pupil below the state average. 98% of Ohio schools operate with more revenue per student than Marysville schools. So we're the 14th lowest revenue per student out of 606 districts in the state of Ohio.
Can you explain where you got that data?
Yeah, that data comes straight from the CUP report. So the CUP report is a report that the Ohio Department of Education puts out each year. They update it annually, so you could go on the website right now and see it. It's got tons of data for every single district in the state. And that's all I have.
Questions?
I don't have any questions. I know we've gone over 5-year forecasts over, every year, twice a year, and the picture doesn't change. And I hope that people in our community look at the information that you provide in this and make a good decision, because we, as you've said, there's no way for us to reduce expenses and be able to keep the school district that we have. I'm having a hard time envisioning a school district that would operate with this amount of money, the projected income and the projected growth, without having, very significant impact to our student populations, but also to our community. So.
How much were we below the average again?
For revenue, we were close to $5,000 below the state average per student.
And so what that translates into is opportunities for students in our district, and what that also translates into is, if I take my kids to another district, they're going to spend a lot more money on opportunities for my kids. And, I think voters really need to look at that.
And that's why, if you look at the, districts in central Ohio and compare them to, you can go on the CUP report and look and see where they rank revenue per pupil. But what you would have to go to the Ohio Department of Taxation to compare would be the tax rates. And you're going to see, the reason that the other districts are ranked higher than us on revenue per pupil is they also have a much higher tax rate. A lot of the central Ohio districts have a tax rate double what we pay here in Marysville.
Yeah. I know the Finance Committee met, I believe, on Monday. Did they have any concerns or questions about the assumptions or anything in the forecast that maybe we should of note?
Diane can chime in if I miss anything. I think the main point of discussion was the amount of the levy and in looking at is it enough? Because that's a question we've heard. A lot of people are like, we don't want any more taxes and no new taxes. But then the other side of it is the people that look at the district and the struggle we have, and is this levy large enough? So in essence, that that discussion, like I mentioned, is we're in essence using that cash balance to enable us to ask a lower millage amount, but that's something you can only do once, because once that cash balance is lower, you can't really use that strategy again.
And is it true to say that the current 5-year forecast does not change class sizes or bring any of the cuts back? It does not reinstate anything?
Correct. The current forecast assumes kind of status quo when it comes to the cuts that were made. It does assume that we are adding teachers based on growth. So
Okay.
it does assume we're growing by 100 students per year, which would mean we would have to probably conservatively add 4 teachers per year.
Does it have like certified staff or any other?
It only assumes kind of a, I wouldn't call it generic because it is based on a salary schedule, but it assumes a number per staff, so that you kind of would give Diane the leeway to say, well, here's that pot of money that we were going to say was for 4 teachers. If we need 3 teachers and 1 guidance person or that kind of thing, you could make that adjustment.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of work to put that together. Next is Board President's report, and I want to start off, hopefully, Mr. Smith could say something about our city school meetings.
Well, we met, and we had a good, honest discussion, as we have typically done. And I would say that we're at the point now where we're exchanging some ideas, and those ideas will be at some point brought to the board and also will be taken to City Council. We have plans to meet next month, and I know that we're working to try to set up maybe a joint meeting between council and the board at some point, I think in June. So it feels like we still have a ways to go. There are still things that we need to work out, but the city has taken some steps and is expressing, I think, a better understanding of where the school district is and how their decisions impact us. So we're moving forward. Don't have any, obviously that committee is not making any decisions, but it's a lot of information and facts going back and forth and general discussions about, what does this mean, or how about this idea, those kinds of things. So.
Great. Thank you. Building visits, everybody's out visiting buildings, I assume, at this point in time, and having a good time doing that. I know I enjoyed it. I've got one more day to go. I think Nan had something to say on that.
Oh, I just wanted to comment that we toured the Early College High School and also the Marysville High School. We saw the lunchrooms. I noticed it when we were on the tour, so it was nice to get an update tonight on that activity. Just very impressed with the activities going on at both locations and the enthusiasm of the administrators. I think last few weeks of the school year, there's a lot of activities, and I think that everyone's juggling a lot. So we were very appreciative of their time. So we had a great visit.
And I'd like to say, at the high school, they're really working on their math department and have basically turned it upside down. And what I mean by that is the more senior teachers, the better teachers, maybe not better, but got more experience, are working with the younger students. And I think that's going to be very beneficial for the students. And I'm sure, having been a teacher, that's tough to do because it's easier to work with the more senior students than it is the freshman class. So I'm sure there was some pushback on that, but they seem to be getting along fine with it. And I guess test results will bear out whether that was a productive move. April 10th, we had a board work session to discuss boardmanship. We're going to do some more on that in some work sessions. And probably come up with some board policies to address some things that we learned. That was a 2-hour session of presentation by our attorney. It was awesome, and I appreciate the fact that we could do that. So, and then the Let's Talk, Mr. Smith and I were at that meeting in Raymond. Lots of good information was shared. I just wish that we could get more people out there in Raymond to come and listen. They definitely have an opinion, and I just wish they were coming and getting the facts, at this point in time. April 13th, we had a board coffee, and I would just mention this to people. If you want to come and share your opinions about how the school district's being run with a board member, you need to do that at a board coffee. That way there's no confrontation. We're there to listen and hopefully resolve any problems, or we'll take compliments also at that point in time. And then I was unable to make the FFA banquet for the first time in I don't know how many years due to the flu. And but our superintendent is going to be recognized at the state conference for an honorary state degree, and that's a pretty prestigious degree. And so we, want to say thank you for all your support for that program. Certainly, that has made a difference, and to be a nationally ranked program. So thank you very much. And let's see here. What else? I think that's, oh yeah, one other thing. Got an email today, and we don't get very many of those emails. It was for Jonathan's support and help solving a problem with Ben Logan, and got that done in record time, and really appreciate that. And then we got a nice thank you from the superintendent from Ben Logan. So appreciate that willingness to work. So other than that, that's my report. And seeing as how my computer's down and my paperwork is not up to date.
I'm up, Bill. Student achievement.
Who's up, student? All right.
I kind of will condense everything that was sent to our board members, but basically elementary, intermediate, and Bunsold, they're taking part in state assessments. We know they're well prepared. There are lots of positive behavior and recognitions going on in the building. And then probably not student achievement now, but hopefully to inspire in the future. There's career fairs and passion fairs taking place in many of those schools. At the high school level, we had a student win a prize for best speech of a Japanese speech contest. And then both ECHS and MHS looked at some data and recognized some students that would benefit from some additional reading instruction through some of their certified OG staff.
Just one question for the old people. What's a passion fair?
I would assume maybe not necessarily related to a career.
Okay.
It didn't say in the notes.
Just an interest?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can help me out at all. Like maybe there was something with fishing. I don't know. Just, a hobby, if you will. That's the way I interpret it when I read it.
And you interpreted correctly. A lot of the buildings connect with community members, have them come in and talk to their students about their passions. Students connect with community members that way. So Northwood just had one, was that a couple weeks ago, I think, by now?
Yeah, that's where the building I got it from.
Yep.
That's correct.
So it's typically a pretty packed house. I know Mr. Smith has been featured there in the past on traveling, so they've kind of this year actually targeted high school students to come talk about the clubs and activities they're involved in. And so there was certainly high interest from the elementary students with the high school students there.
Cool. And it looks like we're up to Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, if I may I move the safety and wellness report up first before the legislative update? That way we can introduce our students.
Sure.
Thank you. So tonight we have with us some students from our drug-free coalition. I'm going to introduce Grace and Kendall Short for a presentation. you may take the podium here, and they're going to give us an update.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Nancy Beals with the Union County Drug-Free Coalition. We have been meeting all year with several high school students, and we've got 2 of them here tonight. The other 3 are out at a lacrosse meet, and then 2 weren't able to make it. So I'd like to turn the podium over to them and let them share their findings for this year.
Hello, my name is Kendall. I'm a freshman at ECHS, and thank you for taking time to hear our presentation. A quick preview of some topics we will be talking about. We'll talk about who TPLA is, what we do, and why we're important. We'll discuss the results of our store audits, and we'll discuss the results of our teen surveys. TPLA is important because it's an opportunity to protect our community. We educate people on the gaps in their knowledge and let them know the harm substances can do, not just to them, but to their loved ones as well. This is a quote from one of our TPLA leaders, Gabe Roel. TPLA is a dedicated group of young leaders in our community invested in learning more about substance use prevention and helping those around us, especially other teens. During this past year, we worked on a wide variety of projects from research and data collection to community engagement. Some examples of community engagement include promoting Red Ribbon Week at home football games, providing prevention information at basketball games, and tabling in our schools to collect teen survey data. We provide a unique perspective on what teens think and feel about drugs of abuse and the best way to promote health and well-being. Oh, okay, sorry guys. We have spent time learning the basics of prevention science. Here are some points that might interest you. The language is shifting away from people with addictions to people with substance use disorders. 90% of people who develop a substance use disorder began using drugs and/or alcohol during their teen years. Drug and alcohol use harms the body and brain. They especially affect young people since their bodies are still growing and changing. If someone is using one substance, even if it's a common one like tobacco or alcohol, they're more likely to use multiple substances. The following factors influence teen use: access and availability. Oh, sorry guys. Access and availability, the easier it is to get products, the more likely teens will use. Social access is access through family, friends, and community. Retail access is from stores or internet. Social norms is teen use accepted as normal or is in the expectation that alcohol and tobacco are off limits. Laws and policy, legal consequences for using substances underage or inappropriately. Policy can refer to access and non-legal consequences for use. Personal factors also influence use. People who are risk factors are more likely to use. Genetics are a factor, and individuals who don't have a good support system are folks who feel marginalized by society or peers. This spring, we conducted store audits. We set out to learn more about the availability of alcohol, nicotine, tobacco, and Delta 8/THC products in our community. Our TPLA students and adult staff visited 20 different retail stores. We visited big box, convenience, grocery, drive-thrus, and dollar stores. We reviewed each store using the same questions and observations. In addition to observing marketing of alcohol and tobacco products, we also were looking for cannabis-related products, Delta 8, Delta 9, or THC 0. Access and availability are key factors in understanding substance use in our community, especially amongst our young people. Ease of access can contribute to rates of use in our community as well, especially amongst our youth. A common approach in advertising is to develop a positive association with the product, even subconsciously. Two methods that companies use to generate interest in their products are to connect their brand to something that folks are already fond of, or to repeat an impression as many times as possible. Placing alcohol and tobacco products near cookies, candies, soda, toys accomplishes both of these goals, building positive associations towards substances in young people's minds from an early age. All store audits began with a review of advertising found outside of a business. In Union County, we found a mixture of exterior displays. Most of the stores we visited had limited exterior tobacco or alcohol advertisements. On the other hand, some stores were covered with ads. Ads could be found not only on windows, but also street signs, on poles, and gas pumps. Some of these exterior signs are something that zoning can regulate. In one store, almost half of the cooler space was dedicated to alcohol and was located near the candy. Lots of flavored e-cigarette products are still available. Zyn pouches and similar products are becoming very common. Here are examples of some of the displays we observed. These pictures show low-cost beer products displayed next to candy. TPLA students observed tobacco or alcohol products displayed next to kid-friendly products in 100% of the stores they visited. 70% overall. In many of those cases, products were within 1 foot of soda, candy, chips, etc. Several companies, Minute Maid, Lipton, Sunny D, Arizona, Mountain Dew, Simply, and more, have been putting out alcohol versions of their popular non-alcohol products. Seen here on the right is an alcohol display at a local gas station near their deli counter that featured Dunkin' Donuts alcohol products. Several students noted that Sunny D alcohol products as they were auditing stores. Here are some examples of different cans of alcohol products that are being sold by brands not typically associated with alcohol. We also found product warning signs and signs that reminded folks that product sale was for adults only. We identified more than 6 different warning signs / campaigns. Several retailers had We ID stickers on their coolers that contained alcohol. Approximately 74% of stores audited had easy-to-see age restriction signage, and 90% had health warning signs. The cheapest e-cigarette type products were around $4.99 each. We are still seeing starter kits being sold within an inexpensive $1.99 vaping device and a more expensive juice cartridges. The cheapest cigarettes across the board were Lucky Strikes at around $5.50 per pack. Delta 8 products often look like other popular candies or snack foods. They contain hemp-derived THC and are psychoactive. Usually, these products are found in smoke shops, though we did also find them at the Shortstop and Buckeye drive-thru. Delta 8 products can be particularly dangerous because kids think they are snacks or candy. However, they are in fact psychoactive substances that can affect the development of a young person's mind. We found these packages of Burritos and cheddar blunts at the smoke shop on 5th Street. Of the stores we visited, all but 3 carried alcohol. Of those who had alcohol, all had beer. Almost all carried wine and seltzer / alco pop drinks, and 13 stores carried small bottles of liquor like Fireball. We also noted that 6 stores carried cheap bottles of vodka. Friendship Kitchen again had the bottle of vodka across and next to the chips, snacks, and candy.
Good evening. My name is Grace Keiderling. I'm a sophomore at Fairbanks High School, and I'm here to talk about another activity that we worked on throughout this year, and these are our student surveys. So we wanted to find out more about substance use around Union County from the perspective of teens. So this is the where and when. Our Myths vs. Facts surveys were conducted in the fall of 2023, and our student survey was conducted in early 2024. Surveys were conducted on Google Forms anonymously and advertised via social media, Instagram, group chats, tabling, direct word of mouth, and posters. And students who participated via tabling were incentivized with candy. Okay, why? The more information we have about substance use in Union County, the more we can do to personalize prevention efforts and strategies. To understand what our peers think, know, and feel about substance use and provide correct information to combat misconceptions. What did we ask? So we had 5 surveys. Our first was Alcohol Myths vs. Facts, in which we received 122 responses. Our next was Marijuana Myths vs. Facts, which we received 76 responses. Next, we had Vape Myths vs. Facts with 33 responses. What Bugs You About Vape was our next one with 91 responses. And finally, we had our 2024 student survey with 93 responses. Here are some interesting facts that we found from our various surveys. To start off with our Alcohol Myths vs. Facts, we found that 29.5% of students thought that drinking coffee or taking a shower would make them sober up, when in reality, only time can really sober someone up. Another interesting point we found is that 4 out of 10 students thought that teens who started drinking before the age of 15 are unlikely to develop alcohol dependence or addictions. This is actually true. This is worrisome since early and frequent use of substances increases the likelihood that someone will develop a substance use disorder. In our Marijuana Myths vs. Facts survey, we found that 67% of students thought that holding marijuana smoke in one's lungs results in a more intense experience. However, this is false. Sometimes people who hold their breath during the process of smoking marijuana may feel more lightheaded due to lack of oxygen. But 90% of the THC content is absorbed within 3 seconds of taking it into the lungs. In our next survey that we had, Vape Myths vs. Facts, almost 20% of students responded false to the statement, the amount of nicotine in 1 Juul pod is equal to the amount found in 50 cigarettes. This, however, is true. 100% of students, though, did correctly respond false to the statement, vaping is a safe way to quit smoking. It is not a safe way to quit smoking, as vaping introduces a whole new group of dangerous chemicals into your lungs. Here are the results from our What Bugs You About Vape survey. The top 3 answers we had were bathroom vapes, vaping during class or on the bus, and students being grouchy because they need nicotine. Though these factors had the most votes, students really find everything annoying about vaping. Many students don't use the bathroom at school, so they don't have to encounter these vapors. And then finally, we had our teen survey. This is a survey that we have been using for the past 2 years. Our goals were to understand common perceptions about alcohol and vape use amongst our peers, how peers who use were accessing these substances, and where they felt consequences would be handed out for teens caught using. Here's a quick look at the demographics of students who completed our survey. We are almost evenly split between respondents from North Union and Marysville, though we did have some from Fairbanks as well. Almost 60% of our respondents were women, almost half were freshmen, and about 2/3 of respondents felt they belonged in their school. So from this survey, interesting findings that we came across were 42 out of our total 93 responses said they knew someone at their school who drank alcohol. 59 students said they knew someone at their school who vaped. 40 students said they thought it would be easy or very easy to get alcohol under the age of 18. 45 students said they thought it would be easy or very easy to get vape products under the age of 18. Continuing on, 60 out of the 93 respondents said they thought it was wrong or very wrong for someone under the age of 21 to drink. 71 out of our total 93 responses said they thought it was wrong or very wrong for someone under the age of 21 to use vape products. So now when it comes to location, the 3 places identified to be the easiest to obtain alcohol and vape were from local parties, from friends or other teens, and sneaking and stealing them from home. Respondees primarily identified school and extracurricular spaces as places they thought they may get in trouble for alcohol or vape use. On the other hand, they found it less likely that they would get in trouble for using at home or in the community. In closing, although substance use by students is trending downwards, it is still a serious problem. Other trends indicate that there may be a resurgence in the near future because perception of risk and harm is also decreasing. Also, with the legalizing of marijuana for adult use, more products will become available. It is best to be proactive and act to prevent teen use. We encourage the use of prevention measures that will ensure health and safety among our teens. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to our presentation. We hope that you learned something new about substance use prevention in Union County. Any questions?
You've got a lot of information and very well done presentation. I'm very impressed with that.
Thank you.
So I guess my question is, you've gathered some information, you've learned what the attitudes are. What's kind of your next step?
So our next step really would be is bringing this to the students. We want to educate them so they know the exact dangers that alcohol and vaping and marijuana brings to the community, and also educating them on some of those products you saw that look very similar to regular products that we have, that we use in our daily lives, just educating them to be more careful and being able to identify those products.
Very well put together.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I just had a question. How, like, while you're in the school during the school year, how do you best connect with your student peers in your education efforts?
I would say really our tabling during Red Ribbon Week was a big thing that we did, because once they came up to our table and they were able to take that survey and we gave them the candy, that was a way that we could really explain or answer any questions they had about what they took their survey on, and then provide more information. We'd really like to, just in our daily lives, we do connect with students, just here and there if they have questions. Sometimes they come to us and ask. But really, we really want to take that next step to bring this onto the students and not just the adults.
That's good. When you did your screening, going into the shops, like the smoke shop, was there any interaction with the staff? Did they talk to you? Did they question why you're there? What was that experience like?
There were a couple questions that we had from the staff. One lady wasn't too thrilled that we were in her shop, but she did let us take the time and research and stuff. A lot of the merchants were very nice and welcoming. The smoke shop we didn't go into, but our adult staff did, and they had that interaction with the person who was there.
And I guess, Nancy, this might be a question for you. When is the recreational marijuana products, where's Ohio at in that process?
The last thing that I've seen on that is that they may become available as early as June. It's once we get through the rulemaking process, then the existing medical marijuana dispensaries would be able to start selling recreationally. And in June, they'll start taking applications for additional dispensary locations. And so those probably wouldn't come online until September, but June.
And I guess you're going to present at City Council next week, is that right?
Yes.
Well, best of luck, and please, there's definitely, they can handle the zoning issue with some of the signage they can.
Yes.
So I wish you best of luck in that
Thank
endeavor.
you.
Thank you. I hope you also learned about our 5-year forecast while you're here.
We did.
In some school
We did.
finance, you can also share.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one more question for you. It seems ironic that in this day and age that we're almost making it illegal to smoke a cigarette, but we're going to make it legal to recreationally use marijuana or even medically. I don't know if you have any input on that or not, or just. It's a head scratcher. Yes. Well, it was a problem then too, at low levels. So can't imagine what we're stepping into. Okay, you're up again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I will try to be quick with the legislative update, and it is scaled back from a previous version, so just to highlight some new information. The OSBA Legislative Conference is going to take place next Tuesday, April 23rd. As of now, Dick Smith and I are attending. If anyone else is, please let me know. So we do have 2 meetings scheduled, one with Senator Reineke at 11:30 and Representative Richardson at 2 p.m. So any information that you'd like us to share on the board's behalf, just, you can forward it to me, and we'll make sure we include that in our any priorities. We've talked generally about a short agenda, but it's not finalized, and so I definitely want to show some points of pride, but maybe some financials and a couple of advocacy issues that we can try to address. I don't know if anyone watched the Ohio channel, but like me or not, the governor did do his the state address last week, and children were the focus as kind of the theme that he's kept in the last couple years. So there are some statements. A lot of it did impact education, or some of his talking points are rooted with education. He wants college and universities to kind of align their teaching programs with the science of reading. The state is saying that they're seeing some districts that are adopting the science of reading, a lot of growth, and it's a positive impact. It has a positive impact on learning, and especially in elementary buildings. But the colleges and universities need to kind of train the teachers and adopt and align those policies. There's going to be, he's requesting DEW to create a principal apprenticeship program to help address principal shortage and provide hands-on in-school training to prepare aspiring principals. He's calling on the General Assembly to modify the graduation requirements to require that students participate in career planning to develop a clear path post-graduation. There's no exact, there's no text, there's nothing. It was kind of a statement that was made, but there's nothing. I checked with OSBA Legislative Division. They don't have an idea of what that necessarily looks like. They think maybe it's going to require parents to have a conversation with the students and the teacher, or the school, but there's no clear understanding of what that may look like. There is a Children's Vision Strike Force, which is a really cool name. It's to help every student who needs glasses receive glasses. I don't know how you apply to become a member of that strike force, but it's kind of a cool name. I like it. There's a bill that's going to be announced to require Ohio schools to adopt a smartphone policy to minimize phone usage by students in the classroom. It does look like this may be attached to some legislation here soon. I don't know where we stand as a district on this policy, but I think maybe we should start having some questions internally and helping relay any information that we can before this legislation is crafted and maybe enacted. He calls to expand funding to increase capacity for career tech centers. Just to update with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, they've reached 60% of enrollment of Ohio's kids ages 0 to 5, so that's a really phenomenal job with that program. Early childhood education, I included this because obviously early childhood education is the first contact before schools. He wants to revise the child care quality rating system and include curriculum to align with the science of reading, and also increase training and funding to equip providers to serve children with disabilities. Moving on from the governor's address, the Senate Select Committee on Housing did release a 93-page report called Housing Reimagined, and it outlines 23 recommendations. The reason why I'm including this, just you can read the report, there's really nothing that is a direct impact right now with the school district, but obviously we've heard like BIA and other, like the Ohio Chamber, talk about how they want to increase the referendum threshold and also take schools out of the any economic incentive conversation at all, to remove any authority at all. The conversation will just be at the local government to approve TIFs and abatements, any economic property tax incentive. This recommendation, this report did not touch on those, but it did say that it was going to forward all testimony and information regarding property tax relief to the Property Tax Review Committee, and that they want Ohio to review the tax policies to make sure that they improve the desired outcomes to increase home ownership and housing in general. In the Ohio House Primary and Secondary Education Committee, Senate Bill 168, which is it's the deregulation bill. It's kind of the tagline for that. There are several regulatory changes that are listed in the report. I'll just let you guys review that at your own leisure. Seems like all the school associations, administrator associations are proponents of this bill. So that's something, I guess, to take a look at on your own time. I think one thing that I like is it allows school districts to develop and use their own framework for teacher evaluations. The public hearing for the proposed school calendar does not need to be its individual public hearing. It can be included in a public meeting. Those are maybe two things that are easy to digest right now at this time. House Bill 250, which Representative Richardson is one of the sponsors, which was originally to revise the military enlistment diploma seal. So they include like service academy, but now it's in the Senate Education Committee, and it's now being tagged for multiple amendments that have nothing to do with the education seal, but other parts of education. It's going to fix a reference to school psychologist licensure requirements, clarify that educator may be assigned up to 2 grade levels outside their normal licensure for up to 2 years, require school districts to include an exemption for military children in their open enrollment policy. And this is the bill that's the potential vehicle for the cell phone policy the governor wants, that cell phone banned requirement policy. So that's the bill to kind of look for, at least that's what OSBA staff is telling me that's probably what's going to happen. For the Joint Committee on Property Tax Review and Reform, no meetings have occurred since our last school board meeting. On Wednesday, April 24th at 10 a.m., how do you say this? OASBO? OASBO is going to be participating in the panel discussion. The OSBA is going to kind of take a backseat role because we all depend on our district treasurers they're the experts in this area, so they'll be leading that panel discussion, and it'll be, the conversation will obviously be talking about property taxes in schools. So that's all I have for tonight in the legislative report. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you. We now have, we need a motion to approve draft minutes, it looks like, from our previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve our draft minutes from the previous meeting, which was April 18th. No, this is the April 18th. Last meeting. Roll call, Todd, please.
Mr. Smith? Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And at this point in time, we have some first read policy agreement. Well, we need a, I guess we've all read those at this point in time, I assume. And so we need a motion to approve the first, or we don't even need a motion for that. So we don't need to read those at this point in time, do we? Just for, yeah, okay. All right. And then we need a resolution to declare a tax levy at this point in time.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is basically statutorily one of the steps we have to take. So there's 2 resolutions that have to be approved to put a levy on the ballot. The first resolution is called a resolution of necessity. We have to do this and file this with the county auditor at least 100 days before the election, which would be July 26th, so we're still well ahead of time. And then the second resolution, which I would bring, after this has to be done first, then I would bring that second resolution, which has to be done by August 7th. That one goes to the Board of Elections. Sorry.
Yeah, one of the things in this resolution, we've been talking about a 5.5 mil levy. In this resolution, there's a specific dollar amount that we're asking for. And it says that the auditor will then determine the number of mills necessary to generate these funds. And I know in Todd's 5-year forecast, he was showing that 5 years out, we're going to have a very significant deficit, and this is the amount of money we need in order to be able to avoid the deficit. And I think, because we've had some questions about why an emergency levy, I think my understanding is we're asking for a specific amount of money, and that fits the definition of that emergency type levy. Is that correct?
Yeah, and one interesting thing about an emergency levy, it's called a fixed sum levy because it's basically the amount you're going to receive is fixed. But because it's a fixed sum levy, as our community grows, which it is growing, the number of people paying into that fixed sum will increase. So what that means is the amount that you as a taxpayer that has to pay to reach that same number year after year is very likely to decrease. So the amount of taxes that a person pays for this levy should decrease as we continue to grow.
Mr. President, just a couple of questions.
Yes.
So 10-year term, what's the purpose for 10 over 5 years?
The reason we like the idea of going with the 10-year term had to do with our TIFs and when they would be expiring, because we know, looking at the future, with growth, the potential for having to build new buildings, there's a good likelihood that we may be on the ballot again within the next 5 years. We didn't like the idea of trying to renew this levy in 5 years at the same time there were potentially asking for new money, potentially to help build a building and staff a new building.
And I guess part of maybe our decision-making process I know there's a debate about income tax, earned income tax versus property tax. We reached an agreement with the city of Marysville for this levy, a new levy, to be passed through to the district, correct? What's the amount, if this is approved, that we will receive additional outside of this fixed sum?
Yeah, based on current valuations in those 9 residential TIF areas, this 5.5 mills would generate roughly $900,000 additional revenue to the school district.
Thank you. I think that's kind of a big point that, I've advocated for an earned income tax option because that's a lot of what a lot of the voters were communicating to me personally, but I think it makes sense when you see that agreement with the city, knowing that amount, that's the additional amount, and knowing that it needs to be a 10-year, we're going to still need money in the next 5 years because we're growing. This was the best option on the table, and this is why I'm supporting this. I'll just end my comments there. So thank you for everyone's work in reaching that agreement.
The other thing I guess I would like to ask is, we still have that question coming back to us on the earned income, and we know that $300,000 house, that's $600 a year, roughly. I'm rounding a lot, I know, but about $600 a year. I'm assuming we might have some idea of what that would cost a couple that was living in that house, because on the earned income tax, we're only taxing earned income. We're not taxing all the commercial properties in the county also. So we have to come up with the same amount of money with fewer people paying that bill. Do you have any idea what that would be off the top of your head?
Well, from an income tax standpoint, we would have had to have asked for probably 0.75%. But now when you talk about cost per a couple, that number is going to vary widely.
Sure.
But I do feel like your average taxpayer is probably going to pay more on that 0.75% versus that 5.5% property tax. But again, if somebody, you can do the math based on, what do I make and what is my house worth, and, do that calculation.
Any other questions?
Can you remind us about the 20 mil 4, how the emergency levy does not impact the 20 mil 4 and the benefits of that?
Yeah, that's just based on state law, that income tax, emergency levies, both of those types of levies do not count towards the 20 mil floor. That's, in essence, it gives schools the opportunity to have inflationary growth on their levies.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we're sort of kind of ready for a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Absent.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. Okay, and I think, I'm not sure, we're on to other HR actions.
Treasurer's items.
Treasurer's items, okay. My paper copy is woefully incomplete, and my computer has logged me out.
Oh, no.
So,
We'll help you.
thank you.
I guess, do you want to do the motion first, or you want me to?
Yes, let's.
So moved.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I don't have a lot to talk about because I don't need really need to talk about the cash flow because I kind of hit that pretty hard with the 5-year forecast. But unless you have any questions, happy to talk about it. The main thing I want to highlight is on the appropriations. We have a grant of $320,000 that Tom Powers, our tech director, applied for and received. So that $320,000 basically equates to 1,000 Chromebooks that we need to replace for our students. So that is a direct savings to our permanent improvement fund. So that was great news. Also, there's some donations there listed on the other treasure items. So thanks to those generous donors. That's really all I have unless there's any questions.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage is absent. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And now are we on to HR?
Superintendent items.
Yeah, And that's volunteers, is that correct?
HR items.
Well, there's a whole bunch of HR items in there, yes.
Yep. HR items, volunteer, and other items.
Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I would say you'll see on our HR items some of the new staff coming on board, so definitely welcome to them as soon as it's official. Contract renewals, we're always asked about the annual non-renewals. That's something that takes place each year. And certainly then you move forward with them next year. We have volunteers and early grads on the list tonight.
Any questions? Okay, move to roll call.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage is absent, and Mr. Kepp?
Yes. Okay, where are we here?
Other
Oh, good, my favorite part. Starting down here, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Keller and I had the opportunity to visit a number of buildings today, and I mentioned that when I walk into particularly an elementary classroom and I see a teacher at a desk working with 4 or 5 students and all the other elementary kids sitting on the floor and in chairs and other kinds of sitting options and so forth around the room, you know, doing their schoolwork, intense, you know, and focused on their learning, you know, to me, that's the wow moment. Because you see the kids taking responsibility for themselves. They're taking responsibility for their own learning, and that, as a former teacher, that is really exciting because that doesn't happen without great planning, great organization, a lot of good instruction, and a great relationship between the teacher and the students in their classroom. So that was just fabulous. It's always nice when we have the Good Apple Awards. These are, in my mind, this is kind of the pinnacle of the district recognition, and we have every year just an outstanding group of people that sacrifice individually a tremendous amount of their time and energy and focus in order to ensure that our school district is able to function at a very high level and that the kids have a great experience. We also walked into the transportation department just as the bus drivers were coming in and so forth, and had some lively discussions with our drivers, and then a very informative discussion with our transportation director. And we tried to convey to them how much we appreciated all that they've done this year. It's been just a very stressful year, I think, all the way around, a lot of different challenges, and they exemplify the best in our school district. And in terms of being able to come together, problem solve, and work together to achieve a positive result for our students. And they were appreciative, I think, of the efforts that the board has made to try to help and support them. I think they're eagerly looking forward to the transportation task force recommendation, and we were talking about that, and the current version of that has a number of positives. You know, certainly change always impacts, you know, individuals differently. It'll impact some families differently. It'll impact our teachers differently, but at least the general framework. It's not a done product. There's still things to look at and things to consider. But the general framework at this point seems to have a lot of very positive things in terms of the experience students will have as well as the experience that our bus drivers will have. So that was good to see.
Just to piggyback off what he's saying, I think to hear about the successes and challenges and how our leaders are meeting those challenges and or celebrating the successes, that was refreshing in our building visits.
I wanted to thank the lunch program for the presentation. I thought that was really informative. They've made many innovative improvements, and they've handled a very stressful situation over the past 3 years. And it seems like they've navigated a very changeable environment as far as funding and supply chain. So I wanted to really thank them for their activity. I also wanted to do a little shout out to high school production of Charity Newsies, which was really well attended. And I want to thank you, the bus driver specifically, for the handling of the situation with the tornado. When those tornado sirens went off and I looked at the clock, I thought, oh no. So, and thank you also, Diane, for the timely updates, so we knew that everyone made it home safely.
Right.
I will just say good night and thank you all for everyone's work.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say thanks to Dick. You know, he's talking about students being on task in all these classrooms, and they're sprawled all over everything. And really, when you walk in, you have to interrupt the student to get them to talk to you about what they're doing, and they're very happy to show that off to you, but they're also don't care if you don't say anything because they're well engrossed in their work. And so I had a question for you. How long have we been doing that, and when does that style of education hit the high school, or has it already?
I mean, it would be our goal to create that in all spaces, right? So
Right.
Kids' voice and choice in the classroom, and continuing to push that in our upper grades a little bit more, and have students be able to build agency around these are the ways that I can learn best. And you'll see that a little more depending on different teachers. I would say even at Bunzold, we're probably not there yet, but certainly that's something we'll continue to push.
Well, how long have we been doing it, though, in the elementaries?
Oh, I mean, really pre-COVID, when we were launching kind of our PL framework and kind of flexible design of classroom instruction. So it's probably been 7 years now.
Wow. So,
Right.
But I think, truly, I think when they get to the high school, the teachers won't have any say in it. That's the way it'll be, or they'll have a problem. I think.
Well, and that's a little bit of what we're hearing in our student interviews. You know, sometimes you ask me for choice, but when I tell you what my choice is, I don't get my choice.
Right.
And so just a different way to think about it a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Privileged motion, so no discussion. All in favor, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. We're adjourned.